I remember it like it was yesterday. The day I stood at the edge of the temple courts, unnoticed but deeply moved, as Jesus spoke another one of his stories. This one, however, cut to the very core of my being. Two men entered the temple to pray, one a Pharisee, with his robes flowing and his head held high. The other a tax collector, a man who bore the weight of disdain on his shoulders. I could see them both so vividly in my mind's eye as Jesus described them. The Pharisee stood apart, his voice rising above the murmurs. God, I thank you that I am not like other people, swindlers, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I pay tithes of all that I get. His words were polished, his demeanor flawless, but his prayer felt hollow, like a cymbal clanging for attention. Then Jesus described the tax collector. He couldn't even lift his eyes to heaven. I could almost hear the crack in his voice as he beat his chest, crying out, God, be merciful to me, the sinner. Jesus paused, letting the tension settle. Then he said words that shook the ground beneath my feet. This man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. I couldn't breathe. All my life I had thought the Pharisees were closest to God. They knew the law, fasted, and gave generously. Yet here was Jesus telling us that the tax collector, a man we despised, was the one justified before God. Looking around today, I see the same story unfolding. How often do we stand in judgment of others, priding ourselves on our piety, our accomplishments, our moral superiority? How often do we fail to see our own brokenness and cry out for mercy? The relevance is undeniable. In an age of social media, where people project curated perfection, we are reminded by this parable to embrace humility, to recognize that God looks not at appearances, but at the heart. The tax collector teaches us the power of an honest prayer, stripped of pretense, anchored in repentance. Standing there that day, I realized something that has stayed with me ever since. It is not the proud but the humble who draw near to God. And if we are to be justified before him, we must start on our knees.